Let me just start by telling you who I am. My name is Rick Adams. I work for LA County Sheriff's Department, and I've been at Temple Sheriff Station for a long time. I don't even know how many years, to be honest with you. I've been on the team that I work on for the last 13 or 14 years, something like that. I mean, after a certain point, I'm sure you can all appreciate this, you kind of lose sight of it. It just, you know, you just kind of get in that rhythm and you do your thing. I've been on a total of almost 26 years, so I've only got about 4 more years to go, and I can retire like the majority of you. What's that? Then you get busy, yes. Yeah. My folks, they're all retired, and yeah, they're busier than they were when they were working, true. But I was just talking to another gal, and she was talking about the fact that you can control your busyness, you know, when you're retired, which is good. So. Yeah. So, anyhow, we're going to talk a little bit about. Well, actually, let me back up just a quick second. Just so you all know, I actually am a special projects deputy for Temple City, and kind of what that means is we do everything. So we do presentations, we deal with the council members. We do parole and probation compliance operations where we go into people's homes, we knock on the door, we go in. That guy or gal that's on probation or parole. Okay, so anyhow, what we do is, I was saying, probation, parole, compliance operations. Basically, we'll knock on the door, that guy or gal that's on probation, we'll go into the home, we'll detain everybody in the house, and then we'll search the house to find out if that person that's on probation or parole are in violation. Are they possessing narcotics, child pornography, weapons they should not be possessing, things like that. Once we find that that's not the case, we dust them off and we tell them, thank you very much, behave yourself, and we leave. However, sometimes they're not always in compliance. Sometimes they're breaking the law. Okay? How am I doing so far?
Okay, thank you.
All right, good. Okay. So when that happens, we make an arrest and they go to court. But we're going to talk a little bit about kind of what you can do to be safe within your own communities. And what's going on in Temple City with the recent rising crime and activity is going on throughout all of your cities. So like I said earlier, it's not specific to Temple City, it's good for all of us. We deal with the schools, we do investigations, you name it. If it's got something to do with our city, Temple City, we're involved with it. Okay? Search warrants, whatever. Okay, so that's enough about me. Usually I don't even talk about myself, but we got 2 hours, and you know, I figured, hey, what the heck? Why not, right? Okay. So, what are your concerns? And we're going to talk about senior scams, fraud. That's a big one, right? How to protect your house, which is another big one. And then, what was the other one we're going to talk about? Identity theft, elder abuse. Okay? We're going to go real loose, okay, as far as what we're going to talk about. I've got a ton of information for you, but what I'd like to do, since we have 2 hours, is find out from you if you've got any concerns or questions about those topics. And then we can touch on other things afterward, too. I had one lady ask me about a parking issue that she had. So we cover all of that within our own city. Now, I won't be able to speak specifically about Alhambra, you know, St. Gabriel, those areas, but I can kind of give you a general idea and tell you where to go to get that answer if I don't have it. So just so you know. Okay, so anybody have any concerns or questions? I know I can talk, so there's no issue there.
I had a guy, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, but anyway, he came to the door, he knocked at the door, my husband answered the door, and he said, we live off of Olive on Golden West, Eastman.
Okay.
And he said he lived on Broadway and off of Golden West.
Okay.
He came to the door, knocked at the door, and said, I've had a lot of break-ins. And he goes, I saw a guy come out my window the other night. Oh. He goes, I'm going door to door to tell everybody. So I thought, this is weird. So I called the sheriff's station and I told her, and she sent out somebody. But anyway, she lives on the same street as myself, so I called her to tell her, see if the guy comes. He never went to her house, but I thought that was really strange. See, I was thinking maybe he wants to see if we're home, you know, or yeah.
Well, it sounds...
a guy going around yesterday telling everybody that people are breaking into their house.
Well, it seems to me that it's quite possible that he was the victim of a residential burglary. Okay. And I'll tell you why. Basically, what's been going on is the economy is down. We all know that, right? So people are hurting for money. All right? And people that normally wouldn't steal from us are going out and stealing from us. The other problem we're having is because the economy is down and the government doesn't have the money that they should, and honestly doesn't manage their money probably like they should, we're releasing these prisoners, these people that are in custody, ridiculously sooner than we should. And I'll tell you just kind of a couple recent things that we've dealt with, basically, and then I'll touch on your concern and then some of the things that have been going on with residential burglaries as well. So we can touch on that. But we had one guy that we knew, what he did is he'd gone to a business. He actually takes the camera, surveillance camera from the business. Well, dummy doesn't realize that when he's walking up to take the camera from the business, right, he's on camera. So the great thing about it is my partner, one of my partners, he's been working in the city and he grew up in the city, and so did I, for a long time. Well, he recognized the guy. They go out and arrest him, and he pleads guilty. He denies it at first. You know, they question him, they sit him down, they're talking with him, and then next thing you know, they're pulling out the video and showing him, and he finally realizes, yeah, I'm caught. I'll admit it. So he goes to court. A great case. You got him on video. You got him admitting it. Right? You think this is great. A grand theft. It's a felony. It's a serious charge. Normally he'd do 2 to 3 years perhaps. He got sentenced to 9 days in county jail and was out in 4. All right? Guys and gals, and not just guys, but women too, are breaking into your homes. They're getting arrested. They go to court, and what normally would be 3 or 4 or 5 year sentence, and residential burglary is a serious offense. They're doing maybe a year, sometimes 6 months, and they're out in a month or 2. Okay? So the problem is, there's no real incentive for these idiots to not commit crime. Right? Because they're all addicted. A lot of them are addicted to drugs. They don't care about you. They've been convicted before. So why not go out and steal from everybody so they can get the money for the drugs, so they can get their money for their families, which is the small percentage. So that's what we're dealing with. That's what we're being hit with right now. That's our big problem. And that's why when I speak to groups with the Neighborhood Watch that we do, we're always talking about things you can do to keep things safe for you. You know, keep yourself safe. Keep an eye out. Now, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say one more thing.
Yeah.
We had our house tenant in December.
Right.
And somebody went in our backyard and started hooking all the hooks, you know, and the neighbor in the back said, "Kathy, is that you?" She kept saying it over and over. "John, is that you?"
Yeah.
And it was a woman, and she had short hair. You know, she gave a description.
It was a woman. It was a woman doing it.
It was a woman.
Oh, okay.
So she said, she kept yelling and yelling, and then she called my house, and the phone rang, and the lady took off. But I don't know why she didn't call the police though.
Well, that's the big thing that we see a lot of times. You have somebody that maybe their neighbor's on vacation, and the neighbor sees a car backed into their driveway, knowing that their neighbor's on vacation, and we find out after somebody already broke into the neighbor's home, oh yeah, there was a car parked out front, you know. We did have a case where we had a guy who saw somebody in front of his neighbor's house. He heard the back door get broken open, but wasn't really sure. He heard a noise, what it was. He went out and actually took a picture of the license plate of the vehicle. Well, that was great because we were able to find out who the registered owner of the car was. We found the guy that actually broke into his house and arrested him. Okay? Unfortunately, that doesn't happen very often. Now, we don't want you going and putting yourself in harm's way. Okay? If the guy were to ask me ahead of time, should I have done that, I would say no. However, if you see a suspicious person, you see a suspicious car even, and you're not sure about it, you call us and let us know. If you can safely get the license plate, maybe you're walking down the street and you're going to your house after walking at night or during the day, and you see a car, right? You can memorize the license plate number. Don't walk up to it and write it down and make it obvious, right? Maria, how am I doing? Am I doing all right?
Good, good.
Okay.
I'm getting the important part.
Okay, good. All right. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Jot down the license plate number.
Okay, good, good. All right, good. And don't put yourself in harm's way, right? anyhow, where was I? Where did I leave off? You guys better be paying attention because I do this all the time. Don't put yourself in harm's way, right? Okay. So don't let them, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right, I'm glad. See, that was a test to see if you're paying attention. No, actually, the truth is, the mind goes. I'm 47. I'm sure some of you can appreciate that. I'm 47 and I'm losing it every once in a while. So just so you all know. Okay. So, we don't, I know. It gets better, right? Yeah. I'm with you. Yeah. But let's talk about some of the things that are going on. You know, we used to tell kids, look, if you're at home and mom and dad aren't with you, right? You know, stranger awareness, things like that. We don't want you opening the door to that person that you don't know because we don't want anybody going and taking you from your parents. And we used to tell people all the time, that's fine if you don't want to answer the door. The problem we're seeing now and the trend we're seeing now is we actually have people that are knocking on the door, guys or gals, mostly guys, but sometimes gals, when there's no answer. So what we're having is, you know, now these guys and gals, they're knocking on the door or they're ringing the doorbell. And when they don't get an answer, they're either kicking in the front door, but usually more times than not, they're kicking in the back door. Okay? So, if you're home and you don't want to answer the door, which I get, I was home the other day and two guys were knocking on the door, and I just didn't want to deal with young kids, you know, and I was busy, and my kids were, you know, they were busy. Well, they came back a second time, so I wasn't really suspicious of it. But I was free at that point, and it turns out they were dropping something off. They were from the high school. Dropping something off, right? So you never know. But look, if you're home, and you don't want to answer the door, and you don't know who it is, what you want to do is go to the door, tell them, hey, I can't talk right now, come back later. You know? I don't have time. Let them know that you're home so that they're not going to go to the back door and kick it in while you're there. Because we're seeing more and more people that are home and they're getting their house broken into. And not just during the day when most burglaries occur, but it's going on at night as well. Not as often, and most of your crooks don't want any confrontation. So that's the good thing. If you are home and you don't hear the door knock or the doorbell, and someone does do that, once they know you're there, they're gone. They don't want a confrontation. Because now that property crime has become a crime of possible kidnapping, a crime against a person. Okay? Kidnapping, maybe an assault. You know, that's a lot more serious. The courts will not tolerate that. So that's what we're dealing with right now. Residential burglaries. Now, in your handouts, there's a ton of stuff that you can do to protect your home, personal security or safety. It talks about the construction sites that are getting broken into, or people are going in and stealing from homes that are being remodeled. It talks about your fumigation burglaries, like you mentioned. So I'm glad you brought that up. And again, I just try to keep it simple, just bullets. Because you don't want to read 3 or 4, I don't know, how many readers are in here? How many people like to read? And that's okay, my youngest daughter loves to read. Yeah, I can't stand to read. I don't have time, you know? If I had time, I would probably do a lot of things. I'd sit at the beach, read a book, whatever, I don't know. But I don't have time, and I'm just not a reader. And I think it's great to read, and I should be a reader. I'd be a lot smarter if I read. Plain and simple, okay?
If you think you're a kid at home,
yeah.
And you always tell them, don't answer the door, So we know that they now have to acknowledge that there's somebody home.
Right.
What way should they do it?
We tell them, hey, my mom is in the shower. She can't come to the door right now. You have to come back later. Or, whatever. As a parent, you make that decision. You have maybe a code with your own child to say, hey, look, this is what I want you to say. Go away. I don't know, whatever, How about, just record a dog barking really loud, But see, the thing is with dogs, these crooks, they're not always worried about the dogs. They're definitely worried about people being there, but not the dogs. So, but good question.
Is an alarm a deterrent?
An alarm is definitely a deterrent. I never had one up until about 5-6 years ago. I never really felt I needed one, but absolutely. Here's what an alarm, I think, does for you. Peace of mind. For one, right? And when you're sleeping, at night, you don't have to worry about someone coming through the window. Now, that's not going to normally be the case. So definitely a deterrent. Not only that, but here's the main thing with an alarm. I mean, peace of mind's huge. Okay. If a crook knows you have an alarm, okay, and if you've got an alarm, you have to use it. Spend the $20 or $30 or $40 a month, and you can usually, I think it's about 30, you know, unless you're getting ripped off and you're paying 40 or 50 or 60 a month. You can, you know, $20 or $30 a month, about $30, maybe 40, and you can actually, you know, it's that way someone will call the police if the alarm goes off. Not just one of those, you know, alarms that just sound. You know, you probably want that $30 or $40 a month charge. Okay. The crook goes to your house. In most cases, he or she, they're not going to break into your home if they know you have an alarm. If they do, once they break in, they know it's just a matter of time, and hopefully just a few minutes before law enforcement gets notified, right? And then we're on our way. Okay? So definitely I would strongly suggest an alarm if you can afford it. Okay? A lot of people ask about dogs. You know, dogs are great if they're going to bite, you know, or if they're going to make noise. You know, but I remember years ago when I was at Lakewood Sheriff Station working, we actually had an incident where these guys broke into the house, and we arrived, we set up a containment around the house, and they ran out the backyard, and there was a pit bull in the backyard, and by the time, you know, the dog even realized what was going on, they were over the fence. So in that case, it didn't do a whole lot of good. I'm not sold on the whole dog idea, you know, about being a good deterrent. I think an alarm is a better deterrent than a dog. That's just me personally.
A friend of mine has an alarm, and I actually was pretty impressed that she's listed me as the person to contact when they can't reach her. And a couple of times when I've been house sitting for her, I accidentally set off the alarm and couldn't get it.
The code? Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they call me right away. And I go, yeah, it's just me.
Yeah.
You know, or there have been a couple times where it hasn't been me, but I live close enough, you know, either I'll drive around and see, and or I just call her or her kids and go, who set off the alarm?
Yeah.
You know, because maybe they haven't been able to reach her, she's in the conference or whatever, at the city numbers. So at least, you know, like I like the fact that they call right away.
Right. Yeah, and they're good. And I've actually set off alarms at my alarm at my folks' house, and then I give them the code, and then they said, okay, well, they still send somebody out, and they live in Temple City, and I tell them, hey, look, don't send anybody out. I'm a deputy sheriff. You know, they don't care. They don't know who I am, right? They still send somebody out. But look, better to be safe than sorry. You bring up a really good point. You know, one of the things that we really try to stress with everybody when we're talking about, you know, working together, you know, we need you to call us. We need you to get to know your neighbors. You know, times have changed. When I grew up in Temple City 45 years ago, you know, 46 years ago when I started, you know, back then it was a different time. We could walk down the street, you know, I have a neighbor that I can call who will come and bring my mail in, you know, feed my cats, you know. You may not have somebody like that, you know, and, you know, the city's changed, ethnically it's changed, you know. We're all here, we're all good people, we're all here for the right reason. Get to know somebody. A neighbor on the left, a neighbor on the right, one across the street, preferably if you can. Look, sometimes we have neighbors that aren't around. Sometimes we have neighbors that are jerks, I mean. So times have changed. Just get to know your neighbors. You know, even if you don't want to give them your house key, you know, and have them coming into your home, and, you know, my neighborhood, my alarm key, all right? I mean, my alarm code. Just get to know them, let them know you're going to be on vacation. It's great that you're there for them, and that's a huge point you bring up, and I think that's awesome. Work together, communicate. If you're going to go on vacation, email me, let me know. My contact information, my phone number, and my email address are on the front sheet of that paper I gave you. You know, email me, and I will send it to patrol, and we'll let patrol know, the patrol deputies, to go by and keep an eye on your house for you, and we'll go by as well. Okay? Email's the best. How many of you folks have email? Okay. All right, so a good number. Now, a lot don't, you know.
Will you be able to read Chinese?
I have Lucy, who's a volunteer for our Neighborhood Watch, who does my translation for me with Chinese. So, yes. That's a good question. No, and times are changing, so that's why, like with our handouts, we put them in Mandarin and English, and you know, we want to reach as many people as we can, obviously. So, yeah. Okay, so I've got other things to talk about, but I want to hear your concerns first, and then we can. Yeah. That last one, and then no more questions. Yeah, no, I'm teasing your butt.
My friend in Alhambra said she had to go to the police, she hasn't got an alarm system, and she had to go to the police department
Yeah.
to register with them.
Right.
To let them know. I had my alarm for 15 years in Temple City. I never was told I had to go
To register, yeah, you don't have to go to Temple City. Temple City's not charging right now for your alarm systems. What it is they charge that so that, for all those people that have alarm systems that go off when they shouldn't go off, well, now the city pays for us, the Sheriff's Department, to provide security for them. Well, they pay for those patrol cars. They pay for the deputies. So what they want to do is they want to be reimbursed if they're going out needlessly to your house 4 or 5 times in a 6-month period because your alarm's going off accidentally, because that's taking our time away from people that really need it. Stopping people on the streets to find out what they're up to, okay? The Temple City doesn't do that. I know Pasadena does. And really it's just a way of collecting revenue and keeping people. I'll tell you right now, when I was in Pasadena, they charged me $100. I'm like, what? I didn't know it. I asked about a fee, and they told me initially, whoever I spoke with told me no. Well, I'll tell you, after that, I told my kids, set the alarm. No, we're not taking, because nobody wants to pay $100 or $200 for nothing, right? So that's why they do that. It makes you think about it, and also it collects revenue, which offsets the cost that they're paying, which doesn't offset it much, but it offsets it, and that's why you have that.
So, do I or do I not have to register?
Temple City, no. I can't speak to any other city. I know Pasadena has a charge.
Arcadia does.
Arcadia does too? Yeah, okay.
More than 3 in a year, then the price.
It goes up? Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, when you say register, basically you get your name, address, and you pay a fee, and that way they know that you actually, you're aware of the rule and everything else. So it's pretty simple. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
One of the things I do when I'm gone periodically is have either my neighbor or my daughter hose off my car because it sits outside.
Oh, yeah, if you're going to be gone for maybe a week or 2? Or a month? Yeah, yeah. Newspapers, obviously if you get the newspaper and you're going to be gone for a week or a few days or a month, yeah, then you want to definitely stop the mail, stop the newspapers. On a note about mail, and the big thing with that, going back to leaving for a month, if you're going to be gone that long, that's the perfect reason to get to know your neighbors and find someone, or have a family member close by that can do it for you and keep an eye on things. Go in every once in a while, once a week, to make sure there's no leaks, in the house, a plumbing leak where your house is flooded. You don't normally have to worry about that, but it does happen from time to time. By going into the house, if someone broke into the back of the house, they would know it. And actually, my grandmother's been in the city for I don't know how many years, like 50 years plus. And her neighbor just got broken into a few weeks back, and they had broken into the back side, the back door, and they think that it happened like Friday or Friday night, but nobody really knew until Sunday. So the neighbors know my grandmother very well, and they've been there for years. And their son is somebody that I know, so he called me, on a Sunday to tell me what was going on. And I wasn't working, but I rolled by there and we checked on my grandmother's house, and deputies already checked on that house. So that's the importance of knowing and working with somebody, working together, and having somebody that can actually be there for you. So there was another point I was going to touch on though on that same note. Oh, mail theft. Mail theft is huge. Okay. I know we have elder abuse as one of our topics. We really don't have a lot of elder abuse, especially in our areas, but we can talk about it in a bit, some of the things that you want to be aware of. And I've got magnets back there, too, that have the elder abuse hotline for you. So should you have any questions at all, especially questions maybe I can't answer, you just call that number, and they'll definitely help you. But identity theft, that's another thing we talked, fraud's one of the topics, I think. That's a huge thing. I was a victim of identity theft, and I'll get back to the mail theft in a second, 2 or 3 years ago, and I think 3 times in about a 4-month period, okay? Well, anybody can be the victim, and it doesn't matter if you have to do what you can to safeguard your information, your name, your address, your social security number, your birth date, those types of things. But the reality is, no matter how much you safeguard, you can still be the victim. So we just need to make you aware of that. The good thing about it is, if there's a loss, the bank or the company, the credit card company or whoever, they're going to eat that loss. Okay? So that's the good thing you need to remember. But I'll tell you, don't make it any easier for the crooks than you have to. So how many of you still pay your bills where you write checks? How many? There's a number of you, I know. Okay. How many of you, be honest, how many still leave those checks for the mail post carrier, mailman or mail lady, on the front porch and the mailbox for them? How many of you still do that? Yeah. Okay, good, good. All right. So look, some of us get set in our ways, you know, and many of us, you know, like my kids know how to work computers way better than I do. You know, I don't have a Facebook, you know, Instagram, all that other stuff that's out there. I don't even know what some of the stuff is. I had my son set up an Instagram account, and I looked at it twice. I don't even know how to use the thing. But I only got it because my kids were on it, and I want to monitor them. And I'm not even monitoring like I should, you know? I mean, you know.
But they know that you know.
They know that I know, but they also know that I'm stupid. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. So, you know, I mean, it's, you know, so they know better. Yeah, yeah. So, but anyhow, look, don't make it any harder than you have to, you know, on yourself. You can pay your bills online, and it doesn't cost you anything at all if you set it up. As a matter of fact, here's a great story. My grandmother, 50 plus years, she's 96, lives in Temple City. I went and set up her online banking for her so she could pay her bills online. It was a lot of work, trying to explain it to her several times, and then going back when she locked herself out of her account, you know, and I know she won't see this because she doesn't use the internet much, so I'm safe there. You know, God bless her. I mean, she's been great, you know. But the reality is, if you can change the way you're doing things, you know, if you don't want to go online and pay your, I don't even have any checks anymore. Because you're paying what, $7 or $10 a book for a thing of checks? Is it $10 or $10 or what is it? More than that? Yeah, it's been years since I've even bought them. If I'm going to send a check, you can do that through the bank. You know, I just go in there and click, you know, and I create a person that I want to send to. It could be a private person. They'll send you the check for free. It doesn't cost a single thing. And it's safe. I have not yet, in all the years I've been doing it, probably 10 plus, maybe 15, never had my account compromised. You know, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, you know, the big Citibank, all those banks, they all take precautions to safeguard your information and their information as well. So just something to think about. But if you're going to write a check, take the time to either hand it to the post carrier yourself or just take it to a Dropbox in the city, or just bring it, you know, don't leave it out there any longer than you have to. I mean, I would recommend you don't leave it on your front porch. Because we have drug users that go through the city and they're driving around looking for mail, you know, on your mailbox. Yes, sir. And let me talk about package stuff too when we're done. Go ahead, sir. After your question. Just remind me because I'll forget. Go ahead, sir. I'm listening.
We had where they stole our checks out of the mailbox.
Out of the mailbox? Yeah.
This is a few years ago.
Yeah.
And the mail lady said, don't put the flag up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something comes in your mailbox every day.
Right. Right.
She said, don't put the flag up.
Right.
Put the checks out anymore.
Yeah. Well, no, you're right. Yeah, and that's a great point. And that used to be a big deal. Nowadays, they don't need to steal your checks up. Nowadays, because of technology, they can swipe your information. When you use your debit card or your credit card, they can swipe your information just through the gas pumps. The gas station at Olive and Baldwin, the southwest corner, we had one of our council members was a victim. What happens is, and I didn't bring a picture of it, and Mark from our cybercrimes unit usually talks about identity for us. It's called a skimmer. It's a small little device. It's probably only about an inch or two long, and it's thin, like a little circuit board. They put those inside the gas pumps. They can even put them on top of an ATM machine where you think you're just sliding your card into the normal slot. Once you do, that information is downloaded to their computer. They could be 1,000 feet away getting your information. So they don't even need to steal your checks really anymore. Now, you know, your crooks that don't know any better, that are drug users and, you know, they're not smart enough to figure it out, you know, the technology, they're going to still steal your checks from your mail, you know, and your books and checks as well. So you have to be careful with everything. You know, look, you don't have to be paranoid, but just be careful about what you do. I started using, because I have one credit card with a zero balance. I started using my debit card, but even that, because I was compromised so many times, now more than ever, I just take cash out and I pay for, you know, for cash. Debit cards are great, but I just don't want my checking account compromised. It doesn't have to be. But in most cases, the banks will take care of it for you. You might just have to wait sometimes, But packages, how many of you have packages delivered at Christmas time or even throughout the year with business, right? UPS, that's huge. We're having more and more package thefts than ever before. And we think that there's at times where there's people actually following the UPS trucks around. You know, they go drop off and then bad guy or bad girl go up and steal. We've actually had a few people with video cameras, video surveillance on their front porch catch the act happening. But unless we know the person because they live in the city, maybe it's a transient we've arrested before, you know, maybe it's somebody we've dealt with, somebody that lives in the city, you know, we might have a great video, but if we don't know the person, they're coming in from Los Angeles or, you know, another city that we're not familiar with, we're never going to be able to identify that person. So that's just something to think about. So you can call UPS. You can call those people that are delivering packages. Set up a time when you know you're going to be home. Leave it with a neighbor. Another reason why you want to get to know your neighbors, right? Leave it with a neighbor. They'll do it in the backyard for you as well. You know, you have options. Just be smart about what you're doing. You know, you can't safeguard all the time. Yeah, you might be a victim from time to time. All right. But let's not give these crooks any more advantages than we have to. Okay? And along the same lines, I've told people this before. Look, there's nothing in your house that can't be replaced. Period. All right? Safeguard your jewelry, things that are sentimental in value. A TV, a computer, money. Look, it comes and goes. Those can all be replaced. What really matters is that we're safe, that we're healthy, and we take care of those that we love. Okay?
I was just going to say that now my husband's meds, we have to be home for because he gets a lot at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah, medication, sure. Look, they don't even know what's in the packages. You know, so they're just going to go and take it. Sometimes we actually had a case or two where they come up, open the package, and it's nothing they want, and they leave it behind. Right? I mean, it's nice. At least they're being considerate. They're only going to take it if they really want it. It's something good, right? So, all right, so what else? We're covering a lot of the different areas we want to talk about, just your questions alone, which is great. And I kind of prefer to do it that way, to mix it up, and then I would also answer your questions. Carol.
Mail fraud. You know,
why don't you talk about it? Yeah. You're going to ask it? You're going to mention that or talk about it? Or?
No, I can.
Yeah, why don't you do that? Yeah. And you don't have to stand up if you want to, or if you want to.
Don't you want to be on camera?
No.
You know, Carol's got a story that she
might recognize me.
Oh,
okay. No, I got a letter, probably, a couple months ago now, I guess. And it was a nice envelope, beautiful envelope. It had this picture of this lovely lady on the top. But it was from the Netherlands. And it was somebody who claimed that this man who had a castle in the Netherlands, long since gone, passed away, but they found this paper under a stone at the castle, and I'm the heir of several $1 million. So sorry guys, I can't donate any money to you to help you.
What are you doing here today anyway? You should be in the Bahamas. Right? Vacationing.
Right. So I read it, I kept it, I copied it, sent it on to Deputy Adams. And I really found it funny. I laugh at it because, you know, it's many red flags. Well, so, long story short, if you get, if they do the research, you send, and then they do something else and send you the papers, you pay $20. And they'll do the research for you. And the money goes to New York. It doesn't go to the Netherlands.
Yeah.
So it was really, really funny, and of course the original language was on this paper, you know, and this lovely lady's face. So I shared it with him so that he would.
Yeah, just so you know, there are all sorts of scams out there, and we're dealing with that on a regular basis. And a lot of it's coming from overseas, you know, and for us to ever get your money back, good luck, you know?
Well, I didn't send the money, by the way.
Yeah, well, and a lot of times they'll ask you to send money, and then they say, oh, yeah, well, we just need, you know, another $200 for this. Look, if you want $1 million and it's rightfully yours, give me the money, right? Show me the money, right? And you don't have to pay $20, $100, $1,000. If it's too good to be true, it is. Yeah, it's too good to be true. Don't buy into it. You know, we have people that do things online like buy cars, and they send all the money up front, right? Why would you do that? You know? And I'll tell you, a lot of the letters we get, these scams, they're actually from like people in Jamaica, and their writing is horrible. You know, I mean, that should be a key right then and there. But don't ever give money. You have people, I mean, we could spend literally, you know, a half an hour to an hour just talking about all the different types of scams out there that there are. I do want to talk about distraction burglaries, though, in a minute. We'll talk about that. Don't ever send money to anybody. One of the things we're seeing a lot of, okay, who's going to remind me to talk about distraction burglaries? Who's going to, okay. And then you got a question too, so we'll get to you. Okay. One of the, what was the scam I was just thinking of that I wanted to touch on? Oh, thank you. No, yeah, basically what it is this lady got a call saying, hey, it's your grandson. You know, yeah, okay, how many of you have heard of that type of thing happening? And I think through my email, I should have brought a sign-up sheet too if you're in Temple City. If you're in Temple City and you want to get weekly crime blotters, like weekly notifications of crimes that are occurring the week before, if you're only in Temple City, because I only do it in Temple City, email me or call me and give me your name, your phone number, your address, and email address, and I'll put you in a database just so you have that information. And also, with that information, I'll send out, like, notices when we get something that's going on, like maybe, like this scam, that I'm talking about right now. I send it out to all my 1,500 contacts, so that way you're aware of it. So we try to do, get out as much information as we can, given the program that we have. Be careful. This lady, thought it was we've had people actually thought it was her grandson, granddaughter. They send the money. Oh, we need more money. Then they realize, oh no, and then they talk to their grandchild later and find out it wasn't them. But it's also been caught where, the elderly person realizes, hey, this doesn't sound like my grandson or granddaughter. I'm not sending any money. There's always going to be scams out there. And the elderly, are usually the prime victims because you're trusting, maybe you might be lonely, they prey on those type of things that are going on with people to take your money, basically. Question, and then we'll talk about the distraction with words. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know quite how to ask this, but in terms of where the people come from that commit these crimes of opportunity, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
Are they, in your work, do you find that they're from outside of Temple City, or are they people that we're seeing on a regular basis in one frame or another? Okay,
yeah, so crimes of opportunity, we're not talking so much scams, because I know that was the question you had before we went on there. You're talking about the burglaries, vehicle burglaries, great question. And if you look at those crime blotters that we send out every week, I'm the one that puts it together, but I send it to Brian Arizumi, because he can send it out to everybody a lot easier. He gets it, then he sends it out to everybody, so it's actually coming from both of us. Yes, the reality is, and from what I've seen in tracking those over the years, is the majority, and I'd say probably 75 to 80% of the crimes that we get that happen in Temple City are from people traveling through. Even our gang activity, which has been minimal, has been just about completely from people driving through. Okay? So the other 20, 15, 20% or 10%, I'd say about 15, 20%, whatever it is, would be from our transients that we arrest on a regular basis. People live in the city that go in and break into, churches and businesses and homes and things like that. But the ones that we know about, we're on them all the time. We're always arresting them. And a lot of times, those people finally leave. And I've had people tell me, hey, I got tired of Deputy Adams harassing me, so we left. Hey, I tell people, we're going to harass you. If you're committing crimes in the city doesn't want that, and we don't want it either. I'm going to harass you. I'm going to sit out in front of your house in an undercover car if I have to, or a patrol vehicle, and anybody coming or going that's trying to buy drugs, we're going to arrest them, and we're going to write a search warrant, we're going to go into your house. And we'll keep doing it over and over again. And we've lost and gotten rid of a lot of crooks over the years. The only issue we really have right now are our transients, who we hit hard all the time too, and they do leave for a while, but then they come on back. Look, I go to church every week. I believe in charity. I give a lot to charity. I give a lot of my time. I read at my church. My kids are at Catholic school. They've gone to private Catholic schooling their whole lives. I believe in helping people and making a difference, and doing things to help others. The problem is when you have transients that are out there on the streets that are urinating in public, loitering in front of businesses, begging for money, ripping off your, stealing from your homes, your cars, taking advantage of people. We don't want that, It would be ideal if that's all they were doing was living on the streets, and some do.
I heard them saying that we're not supposed to call 911 because unless it's a life threat. So it's one incident that about 8 o'clock. There's one Edison guy who knocked my door saying that I need to go to your back because there's been emergency and I need to go to the back. So in my mind, like, I cannot call 911. And like you say, you keep saying that call us. What is the number?
What is the number? 285-7171. It's on your packets. Did you get a packet?
Here's a packet.
Yeah, so that's a good question, and that's something we touch on a lot with our Neighborhood Watch.
Even though I'm in the arcade everywhere, I can call this number.
Yeah, the 285-7171 number is the number you call the station if it's not an emergency. Well, what city are you in?
Arcadia.
Oh, Arcadia. Yeah, no, that won't work for you.
Yeah, that's the problem because then after that I look at the clock. I say, oh, who I need to call to? So I open the gate. I asked my daughter, you watch him. Ask him no move. I said, you cannot move. I said, you're standing there.
Right.
Then I open the gate. I asked my daughter, watch him.
Yeah.
I open the gate, then I come in. I said, you can go in. Then I get my Edison bill. I call the Edison. I said, do you have someone in the service in this area? They said, yes.
Okay, good.
So the next day, I emailed to the Arcadia police station. I said, in this case, what should I do? They give me the Arcadia dispatcher the phone.
Right.
So, okay, now my daughter is growing up, she's 18. She will be in the other area. If she sees someone like follow her or a suspicious person, she cannot.
And nowadays, we get more and more kids that are walking to and from school, and you got perverts going on there and trying to, expose themselves to these kids. That's usually our big issue, and every once in a while you get one that tries to get them into their car. That's rare. Fortunately, that's rare. So that's good that you're mindful of that with your children as well, because that's important. There was something else I wanted to touch on, and then we're going to go into distraction burglaries. Edison, okay, a lot of Edison, they may want to go in your backyard to check a pole, and if you've got a pole, great. But you did everything you should have done. You called to verify, you called Edison, you kept an eye on them. That's huge. I'm telling you, 10, 15, 20 years ago, no big deal. They knock on your door, they want to go in your backyard, fine. Right? Nowadays, we have crooks that are posing as Edison employees. It could be anything. They could be in a white van with those orange reflectorized jackets or shirts on. They might look like just normal people. Maybe they're to do an estimate on your property, right? You never know. So if they're going to go into your backyard, then you better keep an eye on them. Call Edison. If you need to, you call us as well. Something like that would be a 285-7171 number for you to call, the regular number. But if if you see him go back there now, he's kicking in your garage door, you better call 911, right? But that's something that we need to talk about because we're getting a lot of these crooks. Yes, Maria, I'm sorry.
Before you go into the
distraction.
Yes, distraction. We have a question here.
Sure, yeah. Let me come around. Everybody okay? Everybody still older? If you need to get up and get some food, go right ahead. I can bring it to you. I used to wait on tables years ago.
This is Drew.
Hi.
She lives in Temple City.
Okay.
She also lives in the...
Oh, we can't talk to you in Arcadia.
She says she's been getting... There's a neighbor across the street would come to her every year and ask for donations. He says he belongs to a cancer society. And then he will bring an envelope and ask for donations. They make a contribution. Now she really don't know whether it's true or it's legit or not.
Okay. Yeah. So, is there any more? I don't want to let it finish. So, I think I got what she's going for.
She just wondered
Yeah.
whether it's legit or not. Should she continue to make the contribution?
I would say a lot of times when we have people that get phone calls, you know, from claiming to be from a law enforcement agency, the union, you know, looking for donations, you know, all sorts of people are always looking for money. And the reality is, you don't ever really know for sure if it's legitimate necessarily. Yeah, American Cancer Society. If it were me and somebody were asking me for a donation, I would make sure they have some type of literature. I would call the number on the literature, make sure there's a contact number and an address on that literature. And then I would contact the folks before I made a donation to find out who they really are. And then at that point, I would get on the Better Business Bureau website, or you can call them, find out if they're a legitimate business or not. And then only after I'm completely satisfied that they're legitimate, I would send the money. Yeah, because a lot of times if you go to contact them or they don't have literature, you know, or when you contact them, you know, you say, hey, I want to bring the money to you, and they won't provide you an address. That's a red flag that they're probably not legitimate. Now, in the future, if you're in Temple City or wherever you're from, she's in Arcadia, you can always call Arcadia too for help and say, hey, can you find out, what do you know about this? They may or may not know, okay? But she can call Arcadia to find out if it's legitimate or at least get some advice. And if that doesn't work for her, she can always email me and I will find out for her and let her know. And that goes to everybody here.
他们如果不能帮忙的话，你可以 email 给他，上面有一个他的 email 的地址，他可以帮你找。
I will, if time permitting, because I have a lot of things that I do, I will call for you if you need me to verify that they're legitimate, because I don't want anybody getting scammed.
他那边的资料呢，他可以帮你去核对一下，所以不希望各位受骗。
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, from the police department, yeah. You know, you might get, like, I've had an instance or two where police agencies have legitimately called for donations. But you know what? I don't think they're all, one or two times, well, it's been a lot of times that people have asked me about it. Only once or twice, I think, did I ever find was legitimate. Normally, I don't think they act, you know, they ask that way over the phone. You know, everybody wants to give to churches, to good causes, cancer, you know, research, all those things. And I do. I do through my church. And, you know, my son's raised money, shaving his head for children's cancer research over the years over at Matt Denny's for St. Baldrick's. And, you know, a number of things. Look, we all want to do, especially folks that go to church and, you know, you try to do the right thing, you try to help people. But you've got to be careful because the crooks know that we're like that and they want to try to take advantage. So don't, even with police agencies, unless you know for sure, don't send any money. And if you're not sure, let me know and I'll find out. So, I'm sorry, let me just get to this so you can chat right now first.
Okay, I live in the county area.
County area, okay.
Yeah, Southview Road. It's
Okay.
1 block from Huntington.
Okay.
That's why I never know, actually, if anything happens, should I call Temple City or our school district is Temple City?
Okay, and then your mailing address says what?
St. Gabriel.
St. Gabriel.
And our water is Pasadena.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's confusing, huh?
I'm really concerned if anything happens, urgent.
Yeah.
Should I call?
When you call 911, does Temple Sheriff Station get your call?
We never called.
All right. Call. Listen, when you're ready, you get a hold of me. And then you tell me, okay, I'm going to try to see if it's you folks or not, and then I'll go down to the desk during the week, and then we'll go down there, you call 911, and I'll let you know if it's me. Now, if it's not, you're going to piss off the other agency you call, but oh well, you know. But, yeah, I would say, I think south of Huntington, and where are you at? Like, are you between Rosemead and, like, going west there?
Okay, you know Trader Joe in Rosemead?
Yeah, on Rosemead Boulevard?
We are behind Trader Joe, that's
Yeah, I think you're county area for us, for Temple Station. So if you call 911, you're going to get us. But the crime blotter that I send out, the weekly information, it's not for the county areas. It's just for the city, because that's the only city that I really work that I know what's going on. We have so much that we do, it's hard to track what we're doing and what's going on in our city sometimes. You know, so it makes it really hard for us to track what's going on in the county areas. But you can contact April Nelson. She handles the county areas at our station. So if you have questions concerning the county areas, she can help you. So you might want to write her name down if you get a chance. April Nelson. So she's kind of the liaison. Yeah, Nelson. N-E-L-S-O-N. Yeah, April Nelson. Yeah. Sure. Oh. Yeah, and the county area, you know. Yeah. Arcadia, yeah, and you could be still Temple's jurisdiction. Are we your law enforcement agency or Arcadia?
I don't know.
Where you at?
Just a mile north Grand Street.
Okay, yeah, we can't really talk about where you're at because you've already laid yourself out there. Yeah. No. Yeah, you always want to be cautious, but I'm sure we'll be fine. Yeah, I'd say just a mile up, you're probably our area. And so, yeah, you're going to have the same problem. The good thing about it is if you're in a county area, you're going to have law enforcement help no matter what. It's just some of the laws, like when it comes to quality of life issues, nuisance issues, things like that, might be a little different. We may not be able to handle those issues in the county area like we do in the city areas, just because of the city ordinances we have, and the county ordinances are sometimes different. So, sir, I'll get to you in 1 sec. I want to get with this gentleman because
I wanted to comment a little bit about the stuff that comes at us over the phone. Virtually never, there's no real way to know how legitimate that voice is on the other end of the line.
Right.
So the standard thing is, or what I say is, send us something in the mail.
Send literature. I always do too.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, we have had things happen that were just laughably unbelievable, and we get a person with a heavy accent. I won't say where it's from, but
yeah.
And they'll say they're from the USPS, and then they'll talk to me like they're from the UPS.
Okay.
They don't even know functional difference.
Right.
And
those are good indicators.
We have a package that we were unable to deliver, but for us to deliver it now, we need your COD or whatever.
Yeah.
And I asked, I said, where are you calling me from? Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yeah.
So a misdelivered package isn't going to be in Las Vegas.
How many times when you asked for literature have you actually gotten it?
Not very often.
Probably not very often, yeah. And even then, you still want to make sure it's legitimate, even if you get that information. Yeah. Were you going to mention anything else or ask anything else?
No, I just pretty much, an awful lot of what comes over the phone is a scam in some way. And
that's a good point you bring up, because you never want to give personal information. You might have someone, posing as a bank employee saying, hey, your card's been compromised, we need the 3-digit number on your card, or we need your account number, your social security number. You're never going to want to give that out. A lot of stuff comes over the phone, and you never want to give personal information at all. And also, too, what we're seeing is we're getting phone calls from people claiming to be the IRS, right? Or, what was the other one? There was another one. I can't remember what it was. But IRS, where, hey, you owe money for back taxes, and you need to send us $2,000 right away, or it's going to go into collection, and, and it's going to create issues for you. And everybody, well, not everybody, I'm not scared of the IRS, but a lot of people are. I've been audited before, and I'm like, fine. They got a few $100, but whatever. I'm still getting $13,000 back a year, so, But it's stressful, being audited by the IRS, and people know that, and there is a lot of fear out there, There's fear in everything we do, So that's just something to think about. Don't be fooled by people on the phone asking for anything. And if you're not sure, you all in this room know, you can call me, and I will check for you and let you know. Sir.
I just had a comment on police solicitation. I'm retired from San Diego. And we had a major problem with our unions doing the solicitation for funds.
So they were actually going out and soliciting?
Well, on the phone.
Okay,
But
yeah.
what they would do, the sheriffs probably don't, but our people would pay companies to solicit for them.
Okay.
So we had problems where they put the heavy pressure.
Oh.
This is, I'm calling for saying, you have a police department, do you want to donate money to whatever, whatever?
Right.
And we have to put pressure back on the union president saying, tell your people to knock it off, they're getting they're not being specific who they are, they're not representing themselves for the union.
Yeah.
So if they get that type of call, they should call the PD that's asking for it and confirm that it's not the PD asking for money, it's usually the union that's asking for money.
Or somebody the union's contracting with to get the money.
Right, exactly.
Maria, did you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So specific information is really important, that's all. So that to verify whether it's legit or not.
Yeah, and it sounds like there probably are times that they're calling for agencies, but they might be contracting with somebody to make those calls, you know, but definitely it goes back to what we talked about initially. Just confirm, make sure, and if you're not sure, let me know and I'll find out for you.
Something related with cell phones. I heard horror story. I never pick up any cell phone number that I don't recognize. But what happened is that if
I'm listening.
you
Keep
call,
going.
yeah, if you call back, they said that you will be charged for an enormous amount of money. I don't know what this is all about. I mean, I have never done it, but I have gotten email from friends who have warned me not to call those numbers back. I mean, is this some sort of scam?
Well, I don't know enough about cell phone fraud and things like that, but I would tell you this. Yeah, I wouldn't text anybody that I didn't know. I wouldn't call back anybody, and I certainly wouldn't push any buttons that I didn't know. If someone shows up at your door trying to get in and they tell you, hey, look, you know, we need to check your pipes because we're here with the water company, you know, if they're telling you on your cell phone through a text or even a phone call that you need to call this number and you don't even know what it's about, no thank you, you know, no thank you. As a matter of fact, here's kind of a funny story. I got a check in the mail for like $5,700 just about a month ago. And, you know, of course, I'm thinking it's got to be a scam. Well, what happened was my oldest daughter's at college and she's in her first year. And we moved money, and my daughter did, you know, she's 18, she's a bright girl. She took the money from my 529 plan I had for her, and she moved it over into my account, I thought, like she did the first time for the first semester. Well, she actually ordered a check and sent it to me, but I had no idea. And so I'm waiting for the money to come into my account so I can wire over to school, and I've got this check, and my girlfriend actually ends up calling the number on the check, and she actually Googles the phone number on the check. Because I'm telling you, check scams are, you know, great. You'll get someone sending you a letter with a check saying, hey, cash this check, you know, you've won this money or whatever, just send us $200 back or whatever. People go and cash the check, or they deposit the check, they send the money out to these people, and then 4 days later they find out the check's no good, and they're out the money, right? So there's all sorts of scams. So I was ready I actually would have just tore the check up, because I'm thinking, and she Googled this number, and she's like, babe, this is a scam, you know, it's a total scam. And I said, okay, cool. I said, I'll just tear it up. She says, you know what, you got to save it for when you do your Never to Watch meeting so that they know. You know, it could be there are all sorts of scams. I mean, there's hundreds. You know, we couldn't even cover them. So anyhow, my daughter was calling me a few days later and says, Dad, I haven't gotten the money yet. The money hasn't shown up in your account. She's got access to my account. Even my 14-year-old son has access to my checking account. Is that scary or what? Thank God he knows I'll beat his butt if he ends up doing something he's not supposed to be doing. But so anyhow, she's like, we haven't gotten the money in your account yet. And so I said, well, and I started putting it together, and I said, I've got this check. It turned out to be the check that we got from Fidelity, you know, to go to a school, which I was looking for in my account. But the point is, you never know. Be careful about checks, first of all. And if it's too good to be true, it is. And just take precautions. Look what I did. I took precautions. I didn't cash it. I didn't want to deposit without knowing what it was, you know, what it was about. I've got a civil case that I'll be getting into because of a guy actually took his car and he rammed it into my car with my 2 kids in it. He had his kid in the car when I was taking him to school one day in Arcadia. And he was arrested for assault with a deadly weapon, 2 counts, and also child endangerment. Am I talking about enough?
No, we have a question here.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you done?
I'll be walk over as I'm finishing. So he got arrested. So I didn't know if the check came from, you know, like their insurance company just trying to settle things ahead of time, or I didn't know. The point is, check. Do your homework and check. All right. I still want to talk about distraction burglaries, which we need to get to, which we will.
Being distracted.
Did we cover everything? We're good? Oh, touch on elder abuse? Yeah, we can talk about that too. Okay. We can talk about whatever you want.
This lady was saying that she gets phone calls, and when she picks up the phone, nobody talks, and she constantly getting these kind of calls.
Yeah, my thing is, my folks, we'll be having dinner with my folks, and the phone rings, and they get up and answer the phone. And I've always been in the mindset when I'm sitting down with my family, especially with my kids, it's time, quality time for us to spend together. There's no TV, no phones. What's wrong with letting your phone call go to an answer machine? A lot of people don't want to do that. So that way, they'll either hang up on you, or all you'll do is you'll check your message, and then you'll just have that, the missed call. Who cares? Look. If somebody's important enough to you, and they really want to talk to you, they're going to leave a message. If they don't, screw them. I mean, who cares, right? Who cares? Because that is one of the topics, and that's not anything maybe we need to worry about, because we don't have a lot of it, thank God. But I will tell you, and I'm only drinking because my mouth is dry and I don't want to spit all over you guys. So. Distraction burglaries happen from time to time. And it could be from anybody, but a lot of times it's from gypsies. Gypsies are like, they're wanderers, and they're scam artists. And the good thing about gypsies is they're horrible at lying. They have no education. They're basically, I won't say stupid, but they're not very smart. Okay? That makes it easy for us to do our job. However, they are clever enough to knock on your door and tell you there's all sorts of different types of things. Hey, we want to paint our garage. We live behind you, and we want to paint our garage, but I need to have an idea about how big my wall is at the back of my garage. Do you mind? This is a true story. It's really happened. Do you mind if I go in, into your backyard and take a look? Well, as this elderly person, actually this is a young person here, is letting this person through her house, this person is looking to see who's home, looking to see where all the rooms are. And they're on the phone talking in a different language or texting to tell them, hey, there's nobody here, the coast is clear, we're in the backyard. And now this person is distracting this gal. She's thinking this is kind of odd. Why is this person talking on the phone? She goes over to talk to her neighbor to tell her neighbor about her concern, and they get spooked. And here comes the other person that had gone into the house and tried to steal a bunch of stuff. They come running out. Well, the great thing about this case was that she got the license plate number. Now, here's kind of a cool little thing that worked out really well. She called 911, which is what she should have done. She gave the license plate number, and she gave the correct plate, which was awesome. Because we eventually found out, I found out who she was, and I gave it to the detectives, and they actually went out and arrested her after we did a six-pack, and we identified her, and they said, yes, that's her. And it was a gal, she was good for like 15 or 20 of these, okay, she and her boyfriend. But basically what happened was, she leaves, the deputy comes out, takes a report. Well, in the report, they write down the wrong license plate number. It was just transposed wrong for whatever reason. And then when they ran the plate, they tried to get a similar type car, so they were running different vehicles like we do. When we have enough of the plate, we try to go in there and see if we can get the actual license plate. If we have time. Your first deputies getting out there aren't going to necessarily have time because they're just writing reports. They don't have the luxury of the time that we do in our positions. So I'm checking the plate that they wrote in the report. I'm checking the plate in the call, which was wrong. It was put wrong there. The one that they gave me, and I'm doing all these different things, contacting somebody up north because one of the plates came back up north to find out, what was up with this car. It turns out I had to go back and listen to the recording. All your phone calls to the station are recorded, just so you know. So I call, check the call, and I go through it, and I get the right plate, and sure enough, the registered owner of the vehicle was this gal, and we were able to identify her and have her arrested. But what she had done is, she basically wants to go in, they're going to try to get in. It could be someone saying there's something on your pipes, you called me to do this job, I'm here, and you didn't call, right? Look, the bottom line is this. Nobody goes in your house, period, unless you call them and ask them to come. And if you're not sure, don't let them in. Call the station. Or you tell them, hey, look, I don't remember this. I didn't deal with this. Some of us are older. Our memories aren't as well. If you're not sure, do not let them in. All right? My aunt lived in Temple City her whole life. She passed away about maybe 10 years ago, but before that, she was in her front yard watering. She leaves her back door unlocked, like any one of us would do when we're home. Well, somebody had come in from the back, I'm assuming from the back, another property over the fence, goes into her house. As she comes around and she's going into her back door, he's coming out. Fortunately, he was coming out, okay? Because had he been inside and he felt threatened, who knows what could have happened. We had one case once where a lady came home, they had broken, these guys came in from LA, from Compton, and they broke in and she was yelling and screaming. They told her, hey, stop yelling and screaming. She listened? No. She was yelling and screaming. She was probably afraid. You know, she didn't want to, you know, she was worried. You know, these guys were African American. You know, I mean, that's scary. You know, 3 guys, you know. We don't, Temple City doesn't have a lot of African American folks living in the city, so they're not used to it, you know, the folks that live here. And she's scared. And, you know, and she won't stop screaming. So they ended up tying her up, and then they were mean to her. They ended up, you know, putting Lysol and cleaning solution on her. And this happened a couple of years ago for the county area. So, look, the good thing is that's not normally going to happen. Okay, when crooks get in and they see you're there, they want out. And I've got a video that I show for my PowerPoint presentation that we do for Neighborhood Watch, but this really wasn't, this isn't like so much of it. Part of it's Neighborhood Watch and things that we talked about. I didn't bring it, but it's a burglar who's a career criminal, and he talks about different things he looks for when he goes into a home. And one of the points he brings up is that if there's somebody home, if someone's sleeping, he doesn't even take anything. He walks out and he leaves. Because when it's a property crime and no people are involved, it's not as serious. But when you start assaulting people, or you kidnap people, and you're in their home, it's a lot worse, and you're going to go to jail for a very long time. The crooks know that, and they don't want any part of it. Normal. So just so you all know. So be careful with distraction burglaries. Don't ever let anybody in your house unless you know they're supposed to be there and you call them to be there. If you're not sure, call us. If someone's knocking on your door and they're soliciting, you're not sure if they're legit, maybe they're out casing your house or your neighbor's homes, call the station. When we have time, we'll get out there and check. Look, we have more often than not people that don't call. I thought about calling, but I didn't want to be a nuisance, right? Call. When you call us, that gives us the probable cause that we need to stop and detain that person to find out if they're legitimate or not. If we don't have that, we have to find it ourselves, which we usually do. We usually do. But you calling and saying, hey, look, there's a guy parked in front of my neighbor's house and he's been in the car for 5 or 10 minutes. Could be nothing, but who knows? Right? We want to know about that. That gives us the legal right to drive up there, contact that person, and find out what they're up to. If it's legitimate, great. I tell people all the time, every once in a while, I'm pretty good at talking with people and connecting with people. But, every once in a while you get someone that might be irritated, And I tell them, look, you don't live here. We got a call because they didn't know who you were. You would want us protecting your neighborhood just like I am here. So, look at it that way. Most people get it. But if they're crooks, now you've given us a legal reason to stop them and find out what they're doing. And if they are doing criminal activity, maybe they're on probation or parole. Maybe they've broken into your house, your neighbor's house. We had one lady a while back. I'll get to you in a second. We had one lady 6 months back. Someone was jiggling the front door. And then they walked off. She called. We got a great deputy, Brent Fredrickson, that was in the area. He could have just said, okay, he's gone, no big deal. He drives and searches the area, finds the guy she described in the call. He's on the phone. Brant's talking with him. He's talking to his buddy who was breaking into the neighbor's home because they found a home they could break into. So the buddy unfortunately got away because by the time that they found out, he's telling the cops are here. So he's out the house and he's gone, right? But he went to jail. Hopefully he'll give up his buddy, right? But there's a case where a lady actually called just because someone was jiggling the door. We tell people all the time, look, call us. You might get somebody on the desk that's, a civilian or a deputy with a bad attitude or thinks you're being silly. If that happens, you can ask for the watch commander. And you certainly let me know about it, and I'll talk to that person personally and say, hey, look, maybe you're not seeing the big picture here, but this is why these people are calling. So we can come out and take care of the call and find out what they're up to. We'll touch on elder abuse, but that won't take us very long, so we're good.
2 things. One, about, again, it speaks to knowing your neighbors, getting to know your neighbors better. Sometimes even when you call people and you're expecting them, I have a neighbor that called some people to do some work, but when they got there was something about them that made her nervous. So she called me and said, can you just come over while they're here? Sure. And it made her feel better.
Yeah.
Because then there were two of us.
Right.
And the second thing is, those neighbors and the neighbors next door to them, they live across the street from us. They know we have a lot of cars because we got older kids, whatever, so we line cars up at the driveway.
Yeah.
When they go on vacation, they go, hey, why don't you park one of your cars at the driveway while we're gone?
No, that's a great point. Right.
So there are things you can do that are even usually beneficial. So.
I agree. Did you get that, Maria? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, absolutely. And obviously you're doing a great job of communicating with your neighbors, working together, and that's what it's all about. Look, I know you all get it. That's why you're here, right? It's the people that'll never see this video, you know, that will never, they'll never get that extra, you know, touch, that extra, you know, working together, you know, the extra security, you know, just by communicating. So let's talk a little bit. You had a question or a comment?
I'm usually very good at calling anytime I hear alarms or anything. But sometimes the receiving end doesn't seem like, you know, they're very...
receptive?
Yeah.
Yeah, we get that a lot. And you got to remember that sometimes deputies that are working the desk are there because maybe they got, not normally, but sometimes you have, you know, a deputy that's injured that doesn't want to be there. They'd rather be out there arresting bad guys. You've got a deputy who maybe isn't mature enough to realize, you know, this is the way it should be. You're all old enough to realize that in any profession you have really good and you have really bad sometimes. And hopefully you really have, you know, you have really good more often than the other. I can tell you honestly, most people that work the station are good people and they want to do the right thing. But that doesn't mean they always treat people the way they should, okay? So if that does happen, just kind of realize that it is what it is, but still just say, look, I've talked to Deputy Adams. He suggested we call. I would like someone to come out and take a look. And if they won't, you ask for the lunch commander. You know, it's going to happen. Nothing's going to change. You know, because new people are going to trickle through. You have civilians working in there. They don't know any different. You know, it is what it is. You know, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you, hey, didn't happen in our station, you know. So, makes sense? All right. Now, elder abuse we'll touch on because I think we've touched pretty well on the other two topics. And we can keep going too. But really, elder abuse, we see kind of fiduciary abuse, which is people taking advantage of older folks, their money. You know, maybe somebody is taking care of an older person, and they're going out and they're telling this older, you know, while they're taking care of them, they're stealing funds, you know, or they need money for this. Maybe the older person trusts them to manage their accounts, you know, and now they go and they start stealing. Now, look, you don't have to be paranoid. Not everybody that's looking after an elder person is going to rip them off. And most people are generally good people, but you do need to be aware of that. Physical abuse. Temple City back, now I've been on the team 13 and a half years now, maybe 14, I don't know. And I've been at the station before that. I was here for 4 years. So right when I got to the station, I only been here about a year. So we're going back 15, 17, something like that, 18 years ago. I was never really good at math. So. We had a lady, there was screaming going on. We got a call, there's screaming going on. A man screaming. And I go up, I get the call, I'm a patrol deputy, and it turned out that the guy didn't want to open the door, basically, and he screamed. I said, no, we're going in. You need to open that door. And first he wouldn't answer the door, but I was persistent, and I got him to open the door, and we forced our way in. You know, well, I should say we forced our way in, but we got in. We got in there, and we told him, you know, what's going on? We're asking the guy. Well, I'm just having a problem with my mom. Well, all right, come on outside, come and talk to my partner. So I go into the house. It's a small little house. It was on Woodruff, I believe. And it ended up being an older lady, probably in her 80s or 90s. She, poor thing, you know, it looked like she might have had Alzheimer's. This guy was a raging alcoholic and a raging Adam Henry. Kept it clean for the video. All right? You know what Adam Henry means? Yeah. All right. All right. For those that haven't figured it out, get with the other people that did. They'll tell you. All right? And what had happened was, I don't even know, he was claiming to be the grandson living with his grandmother. There were cockroaches throughout the place. Her bed had urine that had been, I mean, for months. You know, cats, like a whole bunch of cats in the place. Feces everywhere, dirty. It was disgusting. disgusting. And all this guy did was drink and yell at this lady. Now, we don't even know if it was actually his grandmother or not. That's got to be for me, and I worked Lakewood for 2 years, so I was in the field for, well, I've been at patrol capacity for, I don't know, 20 years, 18 years, something like that. That was probably the worst case that I had ever seen, and there are a lot worse out there, you know. But I ended up arresting him. I had to lay out everything, the fact that he was yelling at her, the condition of the house, you know, and then it turns out he lied about his name, shocking, because crooks do that all the time. He had a no bail warrant because he had absconded from parole. In other words, he wasn't reporting, disappeared, he'd fall off the map for like 6 years. And he finally, because I knew he was lying to me about who he was. And so I said, I'm going to find out. We're going to check the prints. And he finally gave me his real name. And before I got back to the station, I knew who he was. But it took a lot of work. It was like a 13-page written report to lay out everything to protect this poor lady. And fortunately, somebody came in. We got somebody from Adult Protective Services involved, and they took custody of her and got her the help that she needed. Whatever happened with her, I don't know, but I will tell you, he went to jail, and then I don't know what his sentence was. That was a serious case of elder abuse, but we don't get a lot of that, fortunately. I think we see more fiduciary where they're ripping people off, things like that. Those are the things you need to be aware of. And then scams, just getting scammed, really, are the big things you need to worry about with elder abuse. Now, there are magnets back there that have the elder abuse hotline number. So if you're ever concerned about maybe some type of elder abuse, you're not sure, or you have a question about it, you can contact that number, because that's the bureau that handles it for our department, and they can tell you everything you need. We do have somebody from Adult Protective Services. We have actually several guys at our station all the time. So if you've got somebody you're worried about, maybe isn't being looked after properly, but it's not abused, but you're concerned, maybe they got Alzheimer's. Like I had somebody at the last meeting, I think it was Wednesday when I was here, say, hey, look, I've got a neighbor. It was recent, I don't know if it was that, but I've got a neighbor who is elderly, and I'm worried about that neighbor because he's driving and shouldn't be driving. But, and there's a form we can fill out if we catch him driving, to have them reevaluated, because he's genuinely worried that this person might actually hurt himself or somebody else. And I said, well, let me know, email me, his information, I'll wait for him to leave one day, and I'll, see how he's driving, and if he needs it to be evaluated, I'll write a form out, and we'll do it. He doesn't want to be, he doesn't want to be the bad guy, but, he's worried about it. This person I'm talking about that told me this information is a good person, and I know, because I've dealt with him for years, and I know he's genuinely concerned. So that's something that we can do, to help him out. But we don't get a lot of elder abuse. You can always call me, email me, and ask me if you're concerned about it. I'll give you 1 second.
I have a concern about elder abuse in terms of neglect.
Neglect.
My dad lives in Arizona.
Okay.
And I think that he is being neglected by my stepmother.
Okay. I would say, are you in Temple City?
County.
Okay, yes. I would just say, here's what I can tell you generally speaking, but I would suggest you email me or call me. Preferably email, because I have something to look at. I get so many emails and phone calls, and we do so many things that I get back to everybody, but sometimes it takes a while. I would say email me the information, and I can kind of give you some advice. But the first thing I would say is, what proof, or what are you hearing that would lead you to believe that? And then secondly, if you've got enough, great, you can go from there and contact the authorities in Arizona. But you're dealing with distance, so you have that going against you, and that's not going to help you. I would say too, Arizona's not too far off. You may have to go there and check on him, and go in there and see what's going on. But what is it you're worried about specifically? That he's being neglected? Like he's not cleaning up after him, just leaving the bed and that's it, or what? Or do you?
The house is a mess.
Okay.
She's a hoarder.
Okay.
He is alone for the majority of the day.
Okay.
Just sits in the television, has no social interaction whatsoever.
Does he have Alzheimer's or something like that, or?
He has dementia.
Dementia? Okay.
Yeah, but not
okay. All right. And then where's she when she's gone?
At work.
Oh, so she's working. Okay. Yeah, I would say, and this is your grandfather? Your dad? Okay. And your stepmom. And has it been a problem for many, many years? Okay. And then is there any family members in Arizona that can maybe?
No, she moved him away from everybody.
Okay. Probably for that reason. Okay. And so she's working though, which I find interesting, because a lot of times people that want to take advantage of others may not be working. They're just sponging off the person as well. Yeah, I would suggest, I mean, you can go there and visit, right? I would suggest that you lay out everything that's been going on over the years. You contact, I'm sure Arizona's got an agency like the one we have here, Adult Protective Services. Contact them directly and let them know that, you know, where you're at with everything. They will go in, they have to go in and check on him to make sure he's okay, and have them do that for you at the very least. But I would also, if it was my dad and I cared about, not that you don't care about your dad, because we all have issues, and, you know, and my dad and I weren't tight until later in life, you know. But if you're concerned and you have a relationship with your dad and you're worried about him, because not everybody is worried about their dad, I would say take that trip to Arizona and knock on the door and just go visit him, you know, and just say, hey, what's going on, and just check the house out. Look, hoarding is one thing, and there's not sometimes a lot you can do about it, but if he's living in filth and he's not being taken care of, and he's not being fed, and he can't take care of himself, then you need to get APS involved and the local law enforcement agency involved as well.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I was just going to give an example of what I consider to be elder neglect, and my wife and I encountered it. The woman in question was a regular donor to the Friends of the Library over here.
Okay.
But she was living in an unincorporated area out along Huntington Drive, and so every couple of months, you know, she would get my wife would get a call for a book donation, and we were supposed to call her back on one occasion, and we couldn't get an answer. And, you know, I don't know, called 3 or 4 times, couldn't get an answer. And I just finally said, you know, I said, we need to go out there, you know, instead of just assuming that. And when we got out there, we found that both of her phones were dead.
Oh, okay.
One was dead because of a rodent chewing up a cord underneath the house.
Okay.
And one was dead because of the rechargeable battery being screwed up.
Okay, I'm listening. I'm going to turn the air on because see people getting hot, and I figured out from David how to do this the other night.
All right. So the next thing we find out is that at that point, she had been off of her medication, out of touch with her doctors, not really eating.
Okay.
The only thing she was actually doing was feeding the, I don't know, multitude of cats that were living in her backyard.
Okay.
She had neighbors who, at first glance, you might think were good neighbors, but nobody was paying attention.
Okay.
Right, you know, within a few doors.
Right.
The gardener was coming and going, doing what we call mow, blow, and go.
Okay. Yeah.
And the fact that there was standing water in the swimming pool and elsewhere, and mosquitoes breeding and all of that, nobody was close enough to her to realize how desperate her actual condition was.
Okay.
She had been a docent with the LA City Zoo.
Okay.
And, you know, we tried to figure out how to make contact. Eventually, the people we contacted that worked at the zoo, other docents, they got on the internet and found an in-law that hadn't been in touch with her for 11 years.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay, but the minute they found out that something was going on, they swooped in, pushed us out, and swept her off somewhere because of whatever her money was.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm saying there can be people right next door to us that if we're just a little bit more attentive and a little bit more, you know, actually.
Yeah, so take the extra step. Yeah. And I think that's a great point that you guys have both brought up. That I think, you know, we all get busy in day-to-day lives and, you know, activities and what have you. But if you take the time to get to know your neighbors, you don't have to be best of friends. You don't even have to talk to them but every few months. But if you just take the time to, you know, work together, you know, that's what it's really all about. The reality is that doesn't happen. So it's really, you know, for those that are here that care, you know what you can do to prevent that from happening. Get to know your neighbors, check on them, you know, take that extra step, you know, to help them out. And just because we don't get a lot of elder abuse, I don't want to give you, you know, the false belief that it doesn't go on, because it really does go on, unfortunately, and a lot of times we'll never really know about it, you know, because there aren't family members, or the family members, you know, they don't talk anymore, or they move away. I mean, there's a lot of different things that factor in to, you know, the fact that there's not that communication.
And even though we were only in touch with her every few months, when we couldn't make the contact, then we went there.
Right. Yeah, instead of just writing her off and not making a big deal about it, you took that extra step. And that's important, you know, and I think a lot of us in this room, we get that, and that's why we're here, you know, and hopefully those folks that may watch this, you know, will see that and realize that as well. So, and look, you have to start somewhere, you know, so good for you.
I lived in Monterey Park for 25 years, and where we have this neighborhood watch is somewhat different from here. The way we had a captain, and then we call a meeting maybe monthly, and then we rotate meeting in different people's homes. We have police or somebody come to talk about identity theft or safety or whatever.
Yeah, whatever topic there was.
Yeah. And we all know one another. We know, you know, their names, the kids' names, and all that. So I wish we had something like that going here.
Well, let me speak to that, because that's a great point you bring up. We used to do it that way. We used to do blocks. Pat knows.
Yeah.
You know, we used to actually, you know, try to do block meetings, but the problem is you know, recently with the changes, the ethnic changes, or you know, there's more of an Asian community in Temple City than there was 10, 15, 20 years ago, right? People are busy. Now, 10 or 15 years ago, 20 years ago maybe, the husband worked and the wife stayed home. Well, now, both the husband and wife, you know, they're both working, so they're not around, right? You know, people are busy. You know, there's more technology out there. You know, there's more things going on, you know, on the internet. People are it's more of a rat race than it was 20 years ago. True? There's more things that we're exposed to. So for all those reasons, and probably many others, you know, we don't get to connect with people like we would like to. It just happens. We're all guilty of it. We were only getting 2 or 3 or 4 people showing up at these meetings. Sometimes you might get 10 or 15 or 20, but how do you reach as many people as you can, and how are you ever going to get through the whole city in 1 year? You know? And what happened was, I took this program over about 3 years ago. My partner was in charge of it, and there wasn't much being done with it. And when I took it over, I had to find new ways to get people involved, and also make the time worthwhile, because this isn't my only function. You know, I do a ton of things. I could give you a list of 20 things that bore the heck out of you. That might be interesting, but I don't want to, you know. But we do a lot of things, and on top of all those, I handle all the quality of life issues. So if you got a problem with your neighbor, I go out, I talk to the neighbor. You know, we do a ton of things. I don't have time. That's why I have volunteers. We have about 18 to 20 active area leaders within our area watch. We call it area watch instead of neighborhood watch. That we meet once a month for an hour, and we end it in an hour, and we only do it through January and from January through October, because November and December you have the holidays, and it's too hard to get people together, right? And it gives us a bit of a break. And then we start with our new topics for the year. And what we did was we broke the city down into 12 areas so we can reach those people. And we're doing childcare, we're doing food, you know, which brings people in, right? And especially if you're trying to do a meeting from 5:30 at night till 7:30 at night to get them after work, but home early enough so that, you know, because everyone's got busy lives, right? So that's what we've come up with. We had 12 areas. We're going to do one a month, hit every area, the same format. If there were issues specific to that area, we talk about it. Usually it's not the case. Usually everyone's getting hit with residential burglaries. Usually everyone's getting hit with vehicle burglaries. Rarely do we have a robbery or a murder or a kidnapping or even assaults. They're rare because we have a great city. And part of the reason we have a great city is because we have so many residents that call all the time and let us know what's going on. There's community involvement, and that's huge. So we had 12 areas, and we're going to do November, December. Well, then we realized after we started that it wasn't going to work. So we went from January through October, just this year. And this is our 3rd year, and every year it's a new format. So we have more information to give you, and we put all the old information in those handouts that you have that I gave you today. So, and when we meet with these area leaders, they're coming up with the new neighborhood watch sign that we created with the city. They're the ones that decide the topics. They have a voice. And we're always meeting and changing. We're saying, okay, what do we need to do now? Like, one of the things is we're getting more Asian involvement. folks involved in our Neighborhood Watch, which is huge because culturally, you know, the Asian community don't trust law enforcement, some of the older folks, you know, whatever the issues are, you know, and it's okay, you know, it's just, you know, we want to reach as many people. We have Lucy, who's one of our, Lucy and Martin, 2 volunteers I have that are great. She speaks Mandarin, she's great. She wants to bring in more of the Asian community so that people are more aware. The more we all work together, the safer the place becomes and the happier everybody is. So we used to do those meetings. I tell people, if you've got a block where everyone's connected, sorry, I'm spitting. If you've got a block where everyone's connected and you want to have a block meeting, I'll do it for you. I'll do it for you. It's no problem. But typically, what the problem we're having is we only get, you know, 2 or 3 people showing up, and then you're wasting time. Do you know how many blocks we have in Temple City alone? I mean, I don't even know. It's got to be just blocks a lot, like hundreds. How are you going to hit those in a year? You're kind of wasting your time. You know, where this way, every area, the whole city gets hit every year with the new information for those that want it. You know, and we get normally at our meetings, we get anywhere from Wednesday night we did one here, and we had about 45, I think, which is a very low group. Usually we have anywhere from 60 to 80, and sometimes we have 90 to 100. And a lot of times I just knew people that didn't go the year before that. So, and then we, you know, like so we put the information in the handouts for you. It's usually videotaped by Jerry Jambazian. So that's why the change. Does that make sense?
Do you notify the people when you're having these meetings?
We actually go, myself, my partners, my sergeant, and we have city employees. We used to have the volunteers do it with us, but we were burning them out. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So what we do is we actually go door to door for that area, hit the whole area with flyers. And then Monday or Tuesday before the meeting, usually Tuesday before, the city sends out a phone message to everybody in the area. Look, we get 98% of the people, you know, sometimes, you know, something happens where one crew's doing this, they miss a street, or, you know, that happens. But it's also on the city website, you know, and we're constantly telling people. And then on top of that, Lucy and Martin are volunteers, and they get the other area leaders involved at all our community events. They're handing out flyers and getting people involved. So we have, in 3 years' time, we have over 1,500 email contacts. And was she the question or no?
No, she needs to go to...
Yeah, okay, good. I just want to make sure we weren't losing. Yeah, okay. We have 1,500 people that are getting emails. And ideally, what I'd like to see happen is more good information, articles, crime trends, things that are going on a regular basis that I can't do it. So I need one of my area leaders to do that and start bringing me. And Lucy does that. I'll get little articles and I'll fire them off to everybody. And that's kind of one of the next steps for our program. But we're constantly changing, making it better, making it fit, you know, making it work because we want to make a difference. And I'll tell you right now, the captain's using our format that we came up with for Roseby, for the county areas. You know, I would imagine the format will start being used more often with other folks too. I think Arcadia was actually looking at doing the areas too. So.
Yeah, I live a mile north of here in my county area, and I have no contacts.
Yeah, county area is tough. I mean, the reality is the patrol units, you don't get very many patrol units up there. Fortunately, the county areas are...
Only if somebody...
Yeah, somebody calls. Yeah, but the thing is, county areas are pretty good though. They don't have a lot of crime or activity, and when they are, some of the areas aren't as good as others. But the reality is that the areas that aren't the greatest, that's when our guys come out of their areas and they go over there coaching, looking for the bad guys. So, but you know, a lot of it's money, politics, you know, that's why the county area should have more cars than we don't. But you know, you still have a good area, especially your area. Okay, Maria.
This is the same question, you know, same concern about that, being in the area. They live around here.
Yeah.
Many of them, but they don't belong to Temple City.
Right.
Yeah, so, but they can still send email to you.
Yeah.
About their concerns, and they won't get information about when you hold these meetings, right?
Well, what we've had happen is, we have people that want to they want to get the weekly notice to support Temple City. I can't do them for the county areas and the other cities. But if they border the areas that we handle in the city, we've actually kind of put them in that area. And then we'll usually send out an email to the folks in that. We break all of our email contacts, all 1,500 and growing, into the areas that they're in. So if they're in a county area, perhaps it's close to Area 2 or Area 3 or Area 1, we'll lump them in that area. But they can certainly come to the meetings, and I would suggest for those folks, because we don't always get those emails out to the specific area. I mean, that's something we're trying to work on, where Lucy gets out there and does it for me regularly, or somebody does. But check the city website, and when you know there's a meeting in this area, because it's on the city website, just come on and show up. Just call me an RSVP, and then let me know you're going to, or email me, and then show up. Yeah. And I definitely will email them back, and if I can't help them with their problem, I'll suggest who they should contact at Arcadia or St. Gabriel or wherever to help them with the problem. So we got about 5 more minutes. And I'll stick around longer, but you guys know you're ready to go out and enjoy the day, get some sun. Right? Everyone's still awake?
Right?
Yes, sir.
I just thought you might want to mention the academy that you have had.
Oh, the Community Academy?
Yeah, I went to it last year, and I felt that was very good.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, the Community Academy is something we put on. We try to put on once a year, and I don't. Well, I've got so many other things that I do. I've never been the one that's coordinated it, but I'm familiar with it. But the topics are like, what we do is it's like usually 6 weeks. Usually in May, because I think there's a longer part of the month, or usually more weeks in the month for whatever reason. And basically, like we have one night a week for 2 hours usually, and we'll have a speaker come from homicide and talk to everybody about murders and crimes that go on. We'll go down to Laser Village where we do combat situations, and we shoot our guns, but we use simunitions, which are a little instead of bullets, we're using little pieces of soap that come out of our guns. And we shoot each other. They hurt when you get hit with them. I've been hit several times in the past. We'll do that. We have a tour of the jail, Central Jail. We do that. What else? What else do we have? Do you remember?
Well, I think there was...
Someone came and talked about the academy and shared procedures and things that we do.
Yeah.
We have like 6 different topics, and it's just one night a week for 6 weeks. And we don't have anything lined up yet, but if you're interested in that, shoot me an email, and I'll make sure that whoever's going to run it this next time, whichever one of my partners, it could even be me, who knows. I've never done it yet, but I could. We'll make sure you get on that list and let you know when the dates are we're going to do it. And if you can't make all 6, that's no problem. When you make 3 or 4 or 5 of them, that's fine. But it's just a kind of a way to let you all know kind of what we do and kind of inform you about certain things within the department. So
it was very educational. A lot of good information.
Oh, good. I'm glad you liked it. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Or are we good? You gonna come up and tell me to get out of here now, or what? You didn't